MESSA members, help me welcome Carol McCloud, the author of the book, Filling Your Bucket, and Deena Brown. You have the platform.
Here we are. There's Deena, and I'm Carol. Thank you, Miss Rhonda. Let's see. I guess she's switching over there, but I guess while we're doing this, Rhonda, thank you. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So thank you for the invitation. And welcome, all you Michiganders. I guess you all know that I'm from Michigan also. And actually, if I hadn't gone to Michigan last weekend for a memorial and a 3-year-old birthday party, I'd be going this weekend because 50 years ago this year, I graduated from Oakland University. So, yikes. So, I can't believe that. So, here I am in the final quarter of life. And let me tell you, it is very enjoyable. You know, the old final quarter of the football game is always the most exciting. So, I plan to make my whatever, final quarter of this life the most exciting. And I'll have to tell you, bucket filling has really made my life just, I mean, I always thought that I had a great life, good life, but it just is better once I've really adopted these principles. And I'm here to share them with you if you don't already know. However, I do believe that most of you know about bucket filling because in the past 20 years, either me or one of the members of our team, we have been in over 500 Michigan schools. We've been in over 2,000 schools nationally, Canada, Australia, China, but Michigan is by far our biggest state because that's where we were from. Little travel was necessary, and we had a wonderful time. So anyways, I'm just grateful to Rhonda and MESSA for bringing us here and all of you for taking your time. And I want to make it worthwhile, as did Rhonda. So I did write the book, Have You Filled the Bucket Today? And I have a total of 10 books now. And actually, I sort of semi-retired 3 years ago. And then this last year, I was pulled right back into the business again of speaking. And during those 3 years, when I was working on adult book, and Deena has been my good friend who is amazing speaker, motivational speaker, customer service rep. And all during those years where I worked with kids, I cannot tell you how many kids says, you know, Mrs. McCloud, I know a lot of adults that need this book too. And I was like, yep, you're absolutely right. Or the kids would yell out in the assembly, my dad's a bucket dipper. And I would say, no, he's not, but we all dip sometimes in someone's bucket. So it was always in the back of my mind that I would do that because this concept, I mean, who in here wants anything more to do? I don't believe anyone that's listening to me right now wants more to do, that your plate is already full. And our hope is that whatever is on your plate is better and better and better once you learn these principles with tie in with everything that has to do with wellness. So before the session, I actually asked Chat GPT, I said, well, what is wellness? Which is a word I actually really like. And the definition that Chat gave me was the active pursuit of a balanced, fulfilling life across multiple dimensions. And so I love that word fulfilling because it has to do with the bucket. So to me, a wellness or happiness, which is the way I always think of the right happiness, is rewarding, satisfying, enjoyable, and filled with love, receiving and giving. That to me is a full bucket. And a full bucket is happiness. And everything that we have ever taught has to do with your mental and emotional health. So I don't know if you can see me here, but I assume you can. But this is the book that I've used in hundreds of assemblies over the years. And obviously my favorite color is green. And I would always show this bucket. And in the book or in the bucket, I always talk about a full bucket means it's full of happy feelings and good thoughts. The hearts are the happy feelings, the stars are the good thoughts, and you need a full bucket to go through life. So if you need a full bucket, we have to talk about, well, how do you fill your bucket and how do you keep it full? And whatever level I'm talking to, adult, child, preschool, fifth grade, high school, college, it doesn't matter. We've spoken to all the groups. It all relates to this simple, concrete concept about how do we keep our buckets full? How do we live a life that is fulfilling? And that's what this session is about. So I think I would be negligent if I didn't sort of tell you how I heard it, because people will sometimes say, well, how did you come up with a concept? And it's not my concept. So let me give you a little bit of background. First, I graduated from OU from the School of Education with a minor in early childhood and a major in human resource development. And shortly after that, I worked at a crisis center. I worked at a home for girls that were basically up for adoption. I worked in preschools, both subsidized childcare, Title I, and Montessori. And I wasn't always working in situations where people had full buckets, but I never really heard that term until I went to an early childhood conference in Florida where I was living in the 1990s. And I was at a statewide conference in the early 1990s, and neurologists, medical doctors were presenting the research on the Romanian orphans that had been discovered who had been institutionalized in Romania from the years 1974 to 1989. So if you were born during those years, 1974 to 1989, you could have been born in Romania because none of us get to choose the circumstances of our birth. And this seminar talked about what were these children's deficiencies, both physically and mentally and emotionally. And we actually saw PET scans of their brains, and we actually saw that there were areas of there was no firing of the synapses in their brain. It was just empty spaces. And the neurologist used this term, as you're writing your notes, as I hope you're doing now, is he used the term, their little buckets were never filled. In other words, they were never held or loved or touched or kissed or tickled or sung to. None of those things happened. They did get fed, they did get changed, they were in cribs, but they neglected all the other areas that are so important to human development. So they went on to say, okay, early childhood people, this was an early childhood conference, your number one job is to be a bucket filler, is to connect with these children on a very emotional, tangible way every day. Touch them on the shoulders, look them in their eyes, which is an important part of human development, the pupil to pupil serve and return, which is a very bucket filling thing to do. Totally creates fireworks in the brain, which I actually talk about in my baby book. And they said, okay, yes, be a bucket filler. And then they said, but for those of you who are working with preschoolers, 2.5 and older, teach them to be bucket fillers because now you're empowering them and you're teaching them something that is not easy to teach. And that is that what we say and do affects other people. And we all know that if you work with young children, how do you teach them to be kind and respectful and courteous? Very abstract terms. But with the bucket, how concrete is that? So I went back to my classroom after this session and I actually said, Mrs. McCloud is 40 years old and no one ever told me that I had an invisible bucket. But I know I do have one. And when I'm with you, my little 4 and 5-year-olds, I can feel my bucket filling up because I see the things you do. I see how you're listening. I see how you're helping. I see how you are giving me that big, beautiful smile, and my bucket is filling up. And I went around that classroom and filled everyone's bucket with 2 or 3 specific, sincere statements. Started to cry. I realized how much these children meant to me. And that day, I went from being what I thought was a good teacher, because I really do love kids, to being a great teacher, because then I was focused on filling buckets. And that very day, I asked how many of the children wanted to promise with me or make a pledge that every day we were going to try to fill someone's bucket. And I have to tell you, I still remember that class, 17 boys and 3 girls. And that changed the whole atmosphere in my class. And I even wrote up on it on the board, we are bucket fillers. So I saw it change that class, but I also saw it change the staff that was within our preschool. We directly operated 3 schools, so I sometimes moved around. And when we brought the bucket filling philosophy and that we were bucket fillers, it changed the staff, it changed the cooks, the bus drivers, everyone related to our centers and those we taught outside. Because I was part of the Florida Children's Forum, the training agency for the Florida Keys. And our responsibility was to train and observe, not license, but actually create good quality care. And we took that concept there. And I think it was about 7 years later that I left. But during that time, it was very big in the Florida Keys. And I don't know if anybody else ever used it, but I used it in my training. We used it in our classrooms. And that is really the background of how it happened. So Then basically I moved back to Michigan back in around 2000. I remember that big millennium time. And I was teaching bucket filling to adults, teaching about good customer service, about making sure you fill your customer's bucket when they leave. If not, why don't they go to the bank across the street or the real estate service down the street? That if you don't fill your customer's bucket, why should they continue to work with you? So while I was doing a session at a bank in Brighton, which is where I lived in Brighton, Michigan, married to the bank manager was a second grade teacher. And she came up to me and I told her how I used it in my, preschool classroom, kindergarten classroom. And she said, I wish somebody would write a book about this. And this is the year 2005. In fact, 20 years ago, exactly this month, I talked to that teacher at this session. And I was like, I can't believe there's not a book about it yet. I said, you're right. There really isn't. And I went home that night. I got on my computer, just like I would be doing it right here. I got on my keyboard. I told my husband, just give me a little bit of time. And I actually wrote the words, have you filled a bucket today? And I wrote a one-page outline. And that was in October. And by June, we had a book for a 32-page picture book that I actually have right here. Have you filled a bucket today? And just to bring you up to date, it's not that this is just such a great book and I'm a great author, but the concept is so profound that we now have sold 2 million copies of this book. It's in 14 languages all around the world, and it actually works. It's fun, it's positive, it's effective, but it is not just for kids, as one of our books actually say. So this concept is just so powerful, but it is not just for kids. I'm an early childhood person, so I do believe that good beginnings never end and you should start early. And I know that kindness roads in your brain, which are all over your brain, from the prefrontal cortex to the amygdala, those are best built early in life, that there is a window of opportunity. But throughout our lives, we are constantly building those. And we really are either filling a bucket or taking away from it. We're either creating happiness or we're stealing it from other people. So I've been working with this concept for so long. And even though most of our work has been school assemblies and teacher workshops, we've also done a lot of early childhood conferences, counselor conferences, adult sessions, parent sessions, and really even in the corporate world, it really is about wellness. It's about mindfulness. It's about how do you create a positive environment in a work environment, and how do you keep your bucket filled in what I consider to be a very bucket dipping world? We live in a bucket dipping world. I mean, if you read the news 24/7, your bucket is going to be empty because it's out of our control. And it's not always good news. And it's sad news oftentimes. And it really is about, okay, how do I fill my bucket and how do I keep it full? So here's my bucket. And my bucket is really full right now. I was very excited about this conference. I was really excited to see people from Michigan enjoying that beautiful fall weather up there. So my bucket was very full. When my bucket is full, I usually am pretty good to other people. I'm usually pretty nice because my bucket is full. So our behavior actually has a lot to do with how full or how empty our buckets are. Because when our buckets are empty, when I'm not having a good day, when I'm stressed, when I'm tired, when I'm hungry, or any other person is, what happens is our dipper automatically comes out. It's almost like a futile attempt to fill our bucket when we will not fill our bucket. It's almost like an automatic response. Or if someone dips in our bucket, doesn't appreciate us, says something that we aren't particularly happy about, it, our natural reflex is to dip right back. So we all have a bucket, but guess what? We all have a dipper too. Every single one of us has a dipper. So if you want to keep your bucket full, number one rule is you must be a bucket filler. Not only filling other people's, but know what fills yours. And that's what wellness is about, that we saw in the videos, about knowing how to bring calmness into your life, knowing how to create a space where you are actually filling your bucket. Because unlike children, we're responsible for our buckets. So you have to know how to fill it. You have to know what empties it. both your own actions and the actions of other people. And in case you have never heard, not only do we have a bucket and a dipper, we also have a lid. A lid is how we protect our bucket. It's our resilience factor. It's understanding that what other people say and do has to do with them, not us. It's a concept that really you start to develop, I would say probably in second grade, because now you're developing filters, you're very socially conscious, you're aware of other people, and you can actually understand that what everybody says isn't necessarily true. And it often, if not always, has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them. Have they not learned to be a bucket filler? Is somebody dipping in their bucket? Have they learned improper social skills that are not going to fill their bucket? So the simple idea of a bucket is so profound, and that is one of the reasons it is so highly successful, because it is so easy. The only thing hard about being a bucket filler is remembering to do it. But if you have that thought, and Miss Deena is going to take over here in just a few minutes and teach you some of the skills you're going to have to develop, because this is about wellness. How do you keep your own bucket filled? I mean, most of my sessions have been interactive where I can ask questions. And one of the first questions I would ask, either in an assembly or any adult group, is how many in this room want to have a happy life? So raise your hand if you want to have a happy life. Some of the kids raise both of their hands. I really want to have a happy life, Mrs. McCloud. And I'll say, good, you're in the right place, because I'm going to teach you how. It teaches you in every single one of our books, which basically are nonfiction, self-help, how-to books, how to be happy, basically. I'm going to teach you how. But here's the truth of it. We can't do it for you. You know, everybody wants to be happier, but how many people are willing to think or say or do anything different to be happier? Happier is actually a byproduct of our actions. If you've ever heard of Dr. Arthur Brooks, he's with the Harvard Business School. He has the most popular class at Harvard, and it's a class on happiness. And he teaches that happiness is not a feeling. And I totally agree with Dr. Brooks. It is not a feeling, it's a skill. It's a skill that we develop, and hopefully we teach our children and grandchildren to develop. And it has to do with the ability to give love and receive love. It has to do with finding enjoyment in your life. What fills your bucket, and are you doing it? And if you don't have time, do those things that don't take any time. Listening to your favorite jazz in the shower. Do those things that fill your bucket. So it's love, it's enjoyment, it's satisfaction for a job well done, doing good work, doing the right thing, and it is having meaning in your life, having meaning and purpose. So here I am at 75 years old, and I have to tell you, I'm the happiest place I have ever been. And if I didn't like my job, if I didn't work in a really healthy environment, I would either try to improve that environment by becoming more of a bucket filling environment, so that the environment I am, which we are affected by, is more positive. I mean, our job is to create more bucket filling environments because we're affected by it. And I've walked in so many schools, and I can tell you, I know exactly when it's a bucket filling school and when it is not a bucket filling school. And it always starts at the top. It always starts at the top. And then it flows down to the staff. And then in a school, it flows down to the kids and the parents. And it starts at the top where everyone's respected. Everybody has learned about how important it is to treat all people with respect. And that's the main thing. I have actually been in schools where the school name is on a sign out in front, and they have blasted into their wood sign a bucket filling school. I have actually had parents who have said, do you have any schools that are in my area that have adopted the bucket filling principles? Because it creates the space where all kids can thrive. And I've seen it happen in organizations too, as has Deena, who will be taking over here in a little bit, because this concept that is important for children. I mean, what more do we want than that our children are caring and responsible? That's like the goal of life, is to teach your children and your grandchildren to be caring and responsible people. And you can do that by teaching them the bucket concept. And if you can just give them one thought, it would be, what would a bucket filler do when you have a choice to make? What would a bucket filler do when you go to the grocery store? What would a bucket filler do when you're driving the car? Would you be an impulsive driver who's mouthing off to another driver? No, what would a bucket filler do is really a wonderful way to approach your life. And there are other things that you sometimes have to kind of get more of the good habits and less of the bad habits, because we're all programmed to some degree by our outside world, certainly by our families, by our workplaces, by our communities, by our country, and by the world in general. We're all affected to a greater or lesser degree. But when you understand that I have control of what I watch, I have control of what I focus on in my mind, then you actually can keep your bucket filled. So with that, I think I covered the most part of it about how I wrote the book and why I wrote the book, the real history of the Romanian orphans, which I have to tell you is I have actually met, and many of them I met up at Central Michigan University. I did a session once, and they had a number of children who actually they were college students who had been removed from Romania early in life. So their mental and emotional health was actually quite intact. However, if they had been in there for a lot longer, it would not have been intact. And they actually have a Facebook group out of the Romanian orphans, because don't forget that last year was 1989. So they were taken out of there 35 years ago. And they have a group that knew exactly what it was like to grow up in an area where you're never hugged and you're never loved. And sometimes life can feel like that. But those early years really matter in life. And as adults, we really need to be bucket fillers to our children, grandchildren, students, actually coworkers, the world in general. And as it says in every book, when you fill someone else's bucket, you fill your own bucket too. So the wellness or the goodness that you put out to others comes back to you. It's not at your cost, it's not at your expense, it's actually at your benefit when you teach your children, grandchildren, and you remember to live your life as a bucket filler. So with that, Miss Deena, would you like to take over and lead the adult session? So Deena will cover that. We're available. We're not going to do Q&A today, but we have email addresses, websites, and any questions, anything like that we didn't do in advance, we are available to take any of them. So feel free. Thank you for listening to me, and I'm going to turn the session over to my good friend and business partner, Deena Brown. There we go, Deena. All yours.
All right, all right. Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for joining us, because after lunch, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? You fill your bellies and then you're like, I'm ready to sleep. I'm in relax mode. And so thank you, because I know it's probably hard. So hopefully we're going to just keep it going, keep you upbeat and excited. But if we were all in the room together, I probably would have some snacks on the table. I would have some orange juice, chocolate milk, kind of help keep that blood sugar level going, because, we get a little lethargic after lunch. But we're not. So I'm going to tell you a funny little story instead. Laughter really helps kind of reboost our, our energy too. So years ago, I used to sell real estate. I'm originally from Oregon. Weather is very, very similar to Michigan. All the beautiful fall right now. I'm so jealous of you guys. And but so my principal broker, he had an amazing sense of humor, and he loved to have sessions, big meetings at 1 p.m., at least like 2-3 times a week for all of us agents. We've eaten, I'm relaxed. I mean, my hard time is at 1 to 2 o'clock. I'm like, I'm done. Give me a second. And so he'd be talking for a bit, and my eyelids would start getting super heavy, and I'm kind of slouching in my chair, and I'm just like, it's not that he was boring, it was just I'm tired. I just had a really good meal. And finally, he would stop the whole meeting, and you're talking like 30, 40 of us in the room, and he just pointed, I mean, he just directed everything to me. He's just so funny. And he goes, "Am I keeping you awake, sunshine?" And I'm like, okay. And then, I would then turn to him because I'm a little embarrassed. I'm like, as a matter of fact, yes, you are keeping me awake. Do you mind? And of course the room laughed, and then it kind of helped me boost up my energy levels so I can continue to listen to him for another 30 minutes. And that's kind of what happens with us. We need a little boost, a lift in and change in the culture, a shift in the culture, lighten the space. Bucket filling is that. And I love to kind of tie it in right now for us because we're doing this amazing wellness session, which I was with local government for about 13 years. We had wellness days and wellness fairs. I love them. It's such a wonderful opportunity for you guys to glean on all the information that your company provides for you. And so we love it. And so I'm going to call it your wellness bucket today. But when here at Bucket Fillers Academy, we like to use a really easy, simple phrase, and it is fill more, dip less, and use your lid. And you're probably sitting there going, wow, all right, what in the world is that? Okay, so we want to encourage you to fill more buckets. Not only your own bucket, but fill other people's buckets. Dip less, meaning you're dipping less in other people's buckets. I'll show you a really good example of that in a moment. And then, not letting people dip in your bucket, but then the lid. Carol already showed you on that wonderful bucket of ours that you have permission to use your lid. I wish I learned this like 30 plus years ago. Life would be very different. Now, I pride myself in amazing customer service. I was a customer service trainer for a lot of years. So I was able to, I think, really put the lid on before this amazing visual of what? I mean, I can really do that. Like in all circumstances. And I'm talking, with our family and our lovely, difficult members in our lives, right? So that's the lid. So when we're talking about fill more, dip less, use your lid, let me just talk to you a little bit about filling more. Now, we really want you to fill yours because Carol already shared with you if your bucket is empty, you're not going to naturally be easy to maybe get along. Maybe you'll be quick to be offended. All of these different things. It's your reactions might be shorter. Your responses are shorter. So we're talking about filling your bucket. These things, when we talk about filling buckets, others and yourself, doesn't have to cost you a dime. So many people want to put a dollar amount to something to overcomplicate it. Literally, you smiling when you enter a room, not just at work. Because can I remind you and backpedal just a second? We need to smile at home too. Because unfortunately, our family members, they get our leftovers. And they really should get our first and best. And we should just carry that out throughout the rest of the day. They get the best and we just keep it going and we take the best to our coworkers, our work environments. And that's how we're going to change the culture. But we really have to be our best at home. And so we're going to fill our buckets and we're going to fill our family members' buckets. So, how can you fill your bucket at work? Some of you, I bet you already have bucket filling atmospheres where you do small little things in your groups of people and you make a difference. So, you hold the door open for somebody and because they've got their arms full of all kinds of stuff. Michigan here pretty quick. If you're not raining yet, you're going to be raining soon. It's going to get wet. You're trying to carry stuff. You've got an umbrella. You've got all these things. Somebody sees a need. You help them. That's filling a bucket. How about the fact that I know your schedules are crazy tight? You're busy. You're running. You don't get a lot of opportunities to sneak away, to grab a snack, to grab anything. What if you guys brought snacks for one another? And you knew that that would just change the atmosphere. Because I know for me, I like to eat and I like snacks. And so when people like bring me food and stuff, I'm like, I love you. Like you just filled my bucket. And so that's going to fill other people's buckets too. And when you guys are actually putting each other first and you're looking for ways to brighten your atmosphere, you're all happy. It changes all of you. It trickles out to all of you. Then you love where you're working. You love what you're doing. You're enjoying your coworkers. And are we all perfect? Absolutely not. But if you see that we're all trying and everyone in your space is trying, it's amazing how more patient you are with one another. And once you understand this amazing concept of your bucket, you can see things differently because talking about dipping. But before I go to dipping, I'm going to tell you one of the things that I like to do for myself to keep my bucket full because I don't like to be rushed. So I like to plan ahead. I was not always good about this when I was young, and then I was running around stressed, and then, all the fun stuff that happens when you're short, right? But I like to get up 15 minutes earlier in the morning, or I might put some things out the night before to kind of set my day up. And when I get myself up early and I give myself time to do the things I need to, and I'm not rushed, I actually set myself up for the whole day to be successful. If I sleep in or I fall back asleep after the alarm goes off and I'm rushing, I'm short. My responses at home are short. I get in the car and I'm in a hurry. I cut people off and I have no idea I cut them off. But guess what? They're so nice, especially here in Florida. They love to tell me how I cut them off because they drive by and tell me I'm number one. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry because I just, I'm in a hurry. I've got myself on my mind. I've got my time on my mind. So I cut someone off. And then I get to the office and I'm rushed. So I'm already stressed. And then those people that I actually enjoy working with, I snip and I snap at them. And my responses are short. And then they're like, well, wow, what's wrong with Deena? Well, my bucket's half empty because I didn't do what I needed to do to fill my bucket up. And now I'm just dipping everywhere I go. So the common denominator there with all the dipping at home, while I was in my car driving to work, and at work when I was short with my coworkers, guess what? They all had one thing in common. That's me, because I didn't fill my bucket properly. And so you got to fill your bucket. And then one of the other things, now that we know that, I was the piece in common, there's, the other important piece to realize. So, since it was my issue, my problem, because I was the one running late, I need you guys to remember and realize that when someone dips in your bucket, most of the time it isn't about you. When I was short with my family members at home, and then I was short on the road, and then I was short at work, I wasn't mad at any of them. I was upset because of my circumstances. My bucket was half empty, and then I dipped in everyone else's. So I had nothing to do with them. So realize that when somebody dips in your bucket, and they will, and you know what it feels like, it's that sting, that ooh, that word they said, that didn't feel very good. You feel the dipping. Don't take it personally. Tell yourselves today and forever that you will not be a person who is quick to be offended. That is going to save you a lifetime of just challenges and pain. That's also a piece of this beautiful lid that we get to put on. And I love the lid because you guys are going to work and you're dreading that meeting that's going to happen at 2 o'clock on Friday. And because it's a touchy subject, there's lots of tough issues out there, right? We have to talk about. And or I know you're going to go, what? Or that difficult coworker. Or you're going to a family event and there's a difficult family member. Guess what? Ta-da! I'm giving you permission to put your lid on. It's okay, because do not give other people permission to take away your joy. It's your joy, your happiness. This is your wellness bucket. You have permission to keep it in there. So when you go to that meeting and somebody is saying something that isn't right, or maybe it is something that you're very passionate about and you want to share your feelings about it with that bucket on, guess what? You're not going to have an emotional response. You're going to actually pause and you're going to have a moment to actually have comments and suggestions that are not fueled by your emotions. And then people will actually listen to us better when we aren't so filled with the emotions. And that's what the lid helps us with. And that also helps us, like I said, when we're around that difficult family member. And I know you're all sitting there going, I don't have a difficult family member. Well, then good. I have a couple for you. So, and it's okay because that's just part of life. And it's okay to put the lid on. And I love the lid. So we're talking about putting the lid on and a couple other things. So we're talking about the lid. I also want you to remember, I'm not going to give you permission to keep it on there. You have to take it back off because you then still have to go back out and fill your bucket. You've got to fill other people's buckets. And so you just get to put that on for just a short little bit. And it's just an absolute game changer. You know, I mean, when I was younger, I was so quick to be offended. And I mean, it would be something small, it would be something big. And so just if I can help you with one thing, which I hope I help you with a couple more than just one, but don't be so quick to be offended. Really pause. Take a second because we don't want to be reactive people. We want to be people who are proactive. The other piece about the wellness, because I love this wellness fair and this wellness opportunity is guess what? You might say, I want to be well. I want to be healthy. Well, your health actually starts from the inside out. How you are feeling on the inside is going to project itself on the outside. If you have stress and overloads of stress and you haven't found a way to work out that stress, find healthy ways to fill your bucket, whether it's going for a walk on your lunch break, reading a book, something small. It doesn't have to be big. Sometimes, you know what I used to do, because a lot of you are probably thinking, well, every day kind of starts to run into each other and you're like, well, what day is today? I mean, you know, you're going to work, but it's like, what difference happened today versus yesterday? I would actually trick my mind and I would take a different route to work just to make things feel a little bit different, fill my bucket with different scenery, something just to change it up a little bit. And that's just another one of my tricks. Like I said, I don't like to be rushed, so that's another way that I fill my bucket. You guys have tons of different ways to fill your bucket, but make sure you do it. You are giving all day long. You're pouring out your bucket everywhere you go. It's just part of, some of you are teachers, a lot of you are teachers, whatever your profession is, you're just giving and giving all day. And some people think it's actually bad for you to fill your own bucket. But if you're empty, what are you giving? You have nothing to give. It's okay to fill this first. You'll pour out better things, and it's going to be so much better for everyone around. See, like when you're happier, when you smile, or when somebody walks past you and they smile, what does it do for you? You actually, without even thinking about it, you smile, and it lifts your spirits, and it makes you feel so much different. If somebody walks past you and they're frowning, or you know, maybe doing whatever, their face is very unwelcoming, you're like, nope. And then it just kind of dips in your bucket a little bit, oddly. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of really cool things that we have too. I'm going to show you a resource, and then I'm going to show you our wristbands. And Carol already said it, but I want to just tell you one more time. When you're in a situation, when you're in that meeting, when you're driving down the road, Carol said in the grocery store, you know, when you're in line to pick up your rental car, when you're actually in line sitting waiting to pick up a kiddo from school, or, you know, outside waiting for the bus to come, something comes up, ask yourself, what would a bucket filler do? When you're put in a situation, what would a bucket filler do? Would they laugh along with the other people that are laughing when someone gets hurt? Will they cut somebody in the grocery line? Or will they say, oh, actually, you know, you only have a couple items. Why don't you go ahead of me? And, you know, I mean, so somebody gets ahead of you, one person, you just changes their whole day. You have no idea what their day was like leading up to getting into the grocery store to do the shopping. So keep that in mind that you can make a difference one small act at a time, filling one bucket at a time. So I'm going to show you this amazing resource, which is on our website, which is bucketfillers101.com. This lovely resource, you can go into our website. You're going to go to the Bucket Fillers website, go to the teaching tools, bucket filling worksheets, and then bucket filling questionnaire page. This is drug right out of our wonderful journal, which is right here, our bucket filling journal. It's only $5 and it is amazing. You can get that with us. We have a whole bunch of them we can get to you. But this page is in here, but just print this out and it's just going to ask you some thought-provoking questions because you've heard all about bucket filling, but what now? What are we going to do with all this amazing information? Well, we're going to call you to action. That's what we're going to do because you think one thing, just ask yourself, what would a bucket filler do? Would they behave this way? Would they behave that way? Do you want to change the culture that you work in? Do you want to change your home life and your culture at home? We can do it. Now, we don't get healthy overnight, right? We might have, some people, I ate horrible for a few years. And then I woke up one day and I'm like, hey, I want to get healthy. Would it happen overnight? No. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes action. And that's what bucket filling is. It's practice, practice, practice. So I had this amazing armband on, but I'm going to take it off just so I could show it to you a little bit better. It says, I am a bucket filler. And it's a great color because it'll make you think of Florida. You're welcome. And then on the other side, it says no dipping. So you start with this beauty on your left wrist. And then when you fill someone's bucket, a big act of bucket filling, small act of bucket filling, you get to move it over to your right wrist. Now, if you see this thing sitting there still at 5 o'clock in the evening, you're like, I think I might need to fill a bucket. And it's a good reminder. The other favorite thing that I love that I want to remind you of, this is a big one. Big, big, big. No dipping. Now, I talked a little bit about what dipping looks like, but one of the biggest things you guys might not realize, negative self-talk. You wear this baby, it's on your wrist, it reminds you no negative self-talk. How many times have you told yourself, I cannot believe I forgot that spreadsheet again? I cannot believe I didn't get that Excel piece done correctly. I cannot believe I forgot that at home again. Insert, I can't believe I'm not good enough. I'm never going to get it right. Whatever you say to yourself, guess what? You're stuck with yourself every single day, every hour for the rest of your life. So you might as well stop dipping in your own bucket because shift your mindset because what you think is what you're going to get in life. And I think I saw a lot of you when Carol asked if you want to live a happier life. A lot of you rose your hand, and I'm always the one like, yep, I want a happier life. And I know you guys do too. Otherwise, you would not be choosing to sit here with us right after lunch listening about all this wonderful stuff. So I hope that I gave you a couple of tools, some thought-provoking things, but I want to leave you with a really, really cool story. And so it does not make any sense other than the only piece that makes sense is how everything started. So when I was born, my grandma used to sing, "You Are My Sunshine" to me since I was born until I am almost 50. And she left this world this February. And so she sang "You Are My Sunshine" up till a few months back. And everywhere I went, like I shared with you earlier, my principal broker called me Sunshine. He didn't know that my grandma sang "You Are My Sunshine" to me. I've had so many people call me Sunshine or Ray of Sunshine or whatever. I tell you, my grandma poured into me, "You are my sunshine," and she sang that and she shared how special and valuable I was. And I didn't know about bucket filling back then, but she was my bucket filler. She was a natural bucket filler. And what she put into me and the things that she said, look, I still have people calling me Sunshine that don't even know me. And I attest the fact that she breathes all this beautiful life into my life just by singing You Are My Sunshine and just spending time with me. And so I hope a simple song that you can sing, a simple small gesture that you can do to change the atmosphere in your classrooms, with your coworkers, especially at home with your families. I hope that you guys will just take one little thing and make a difference. And we just call you to action to be bucket fillers in your world wherever you're at. And I thank you so much for spending time with us. I really, really do value your time. Thank you so much. Come back over. Come on over, Carol.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. I see so many are still here. So, Miss Rhonda, it's been a pleasure working with you. I hope we
Thank
made an
you, Carol.
impact. We appreciate everybody hanging in there and listening. And believe me, it is really real. Some people say, oh, that's a little hokey. That never works. Let me tell you, we have so many testimonials and we have so many stories of people whose lives have literally changed, families, because they just set the bar that all it is been how we treat others, how we treat ourselves, and we have total control over that. We do. Whether we complain and criticize all day long, that is all within ours, and we learn those habits from others, and we can change it, we can eliminate it as we start to become more aware of ourselves. What are we saying? What are we doing? Is that filling my bucket? Is it dipping my bucket? And just making those choices. So I love what Deena said: fill more, dip less, use your lid. That's happiness.
That's right.
Fill more, dip less, use your lid. That's happiness. And it really is. So try it. We're happy to hear from you. It's Carol at bucketfillers101.com. Let us know if there's anything else you have questions about or available. We still do schoolwork. We still do adult sessions. We're happy to spread this message wherever we go, because I think it brings meaning and beauty to a life. And we're all going to make a difference in life. And, I love what Jane Goodall said. She said, we're all going to make a difference, but what kind of difference do you want to make? And I really believe that that is true. And that is our choice. So thank you, Deena, for always doing your best and doing a great job. And Rhonda, for doing your work. And all of you out there, just make a choice. Just be a bucket filler. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you so much, Deena. I am inspired. Excellent information. If you glance in the chat, there's so many thank yous. There are some districts, teachers here that have been using your concept and your book. Yeah,
honestly,
so
I should take a moment to say this. Next year is our 20th anniversary, and we're coming out with a commemorative edition. But I actually am going to be putting on our Facebook page. We're looking for teachers, schools, educators, principals who've been using it. I mean, I know many who've been using it for more than a decade, and we really want to reach out to you, and we're going to be recognizing those schools. So you have my email, you have the website. We don't know what we're doing exactly yet, but we are going to make this really a year where we really spread the message of bucket filling, and we're going to really honor those schools, because unfortunately, not everybody has seen those wonderful schools that I have. Those teachers, educators, bus drivers, custodians who are making such a difference in lives. I mean, anyone. I mean, education changes lives, and we want it to be the right education.
Yep.
And I just honor all of you for the work that you're doing, and it's so important. So never underestimate the impact that you have on lives. And I think you're making some positive impact there. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely.
I'll take a look at this. So
Yeah, we gotta read
awesome.
this.
Right. Yep, I like the
Well,
film
we
one.
might hang out with you guys for a little bit, but we'll mute ourselves so that you guys can carry on. And we're going to read some of your messages and maybe type back if that's all right too, just so nobody feels like they're missed.
thank you so much, Deena. Thank
Yeah.
you for all the work you're doing. You are actually changing the world. We see it right here, evidence of it in the chat. Anyone that has questions, you can go to their website, email. If you have specific questions, I hear them both saying they're here to help you. And they also have the products on the website. Actually, Carol, when we first met, I went out and I bought the book for my granddaughters. It was a package of books for my granddaughter, and I directed her parents to read it. And I've been reading it myself, and I got it down, and I told them, make sure you read it to her when she goes to bed. So I love the work you're doing. Perfect fit for work sites and adults. We need to learn or relearn how to keep our buckets filled and filled other buckets. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we'll see if we can answer any of these. I see one of a question about putting the lid on. It does mean pausing or stopping and recognizing your emotions. But and it really does realizing that, you know, what you really, you have to put it back on the other person or the news program or whatever, and just realize it has nothing to do with you. And you really do have to really, you know, really stop it from just dipping in your bucket. You're still going to lose a few hearts and stars, but it doesn't have to empty your bucket, because what other people say and do has nothing or almost nothing to do with you. So you really have to develop filters for the world that's out there, because it can be pretty bucket dipping. Not everybody is respectful of all persons. And when you teach your children that, they're learning early that we treat all people with respect and we honor all people. And when they don't honor you, you put a lid on your bucket and you don't let them steal your happiness. And yes, it is a pause. You don't want to say something right away. If you do, it's not going to be a bucket filling statement. It just can't be, because we react to things like that. They hurt.
Yeah.
So we'll see what we can do to answer these questions, but thank you all. And anything else we can do, just send us an email and we'll get right back with you.
Yeah.
So